Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome back. Queen Osset here. So, let's see. I want to do something a little bit different today. I want to introduce story time, but I want to do it in a way that I will read some of our stories from my faith, the way of the orisha, to you, so you have a better understanding of who we are and where we come from, and how we give an explanation to things that may occur in the world around us. You see, our stories, our patakis, are more than myths. They are an explanation of the reason why certain things happen. So, over the past few weeks, several months, but the past few weeks for the most part, I have noticed drama unfolding. Okay, that is not something unusual. This is the Tuberverse, and there are many people on YouTube with many opinions and gamut of feelings. All of this added to this huge pot that we dip into. I only ask that when you dip into it, that you replace it with something good, not with the yucky, icky, yes, I'm using grade school language, but if we were talking in person, my language would be probably a little bit more adult. But at some point, someone has to have a clear head and take a step back. You know, this is not my channel. This is our channel. And I'm here to share a bit of me with you. And I welcome you. You don't need to think like me, practice spirituality the way that I do. You don't need to even understand my language. I've had people come in from Russia and Holland who do not speak English and leave comments, and I just translated it. And you definitely don't even need to look like me. You just have to be a little bit open and have an interest, perhaps, in another human being, wanting to get to know what I'm about. You know, that curiosity and a level of respect also. So today I'm going to read you a story, and I hope it won't be too long. So maybe you want to take a break, put me on pause and get yourself a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, your favorite beverage, or get nothing. You know, maybe I'm your AMSR before you drop off to sleep. But I hope you enjoy this story. I hope you enjoy this pataki. And I hope you understand the meaning and the lesson behind this pataki. So, without further ado, it is called Why the Rooster Was First Sacrificed. Now, because I'm blind as a bat, I had to put on my glasses. So, it was early morning, but still night, and the rooster stood on the forest floor, calling his friends to witness his power. "It is time," he called out into the darkness, and one by one the birds awakened and fluttered down to the forest floor. It was dangerous to be on the ground. Predators hid in bushes and waited to ambush the unwary. Yet the mystery of the rooster's supposed powers was too much a temptation, and for a time they forgot about the dangers that might be lurking in the shadows. Soft coos and crows filled the forest, and the rooster held a single wing to his beak. "Shush," he ordered, but softly. "It is time for me to call the sun." Gently the rooster sang. It was a soft clucking at first, like that of any other rooster or hen. But soon he gathered air in his lungs and changed his song. It was unlike any sound any bird ever made. It was shrill and sharp, filled with cacophonous tag vibrato that filled the forest. It hurt to listen, But listen, the birds did, and they watched the eastern sky, waiting for the sun to rise. Elegua awoke to the sound of the rooster's crooning. It wasn't loud inside the palace walls, but to sensitive ears, such as his, the slightest noise disturbed his sleep. Begrudgingly, he got up from his soft bed and walked down the long, cold stone floor to Olifine's chambers. His head still swimming with sleep and dreams, he knocked lightly, and when there was no answer, he knocked louder. There was only the sound of his knuckles rapping on the wood, and then silence. Every century, Olofine is harder to awake, he said. Elegua knocked more forcefully, and when there was still no answer, he banged with all of his might. The doors opened, and Olofine stood before him, and cheerful and rested from his night slumber. As always, thank you, Elegua, he said. Elegua smiled faintly and walked back to his own room, overwhelmed by Olofine's cheerfulness. I got out of bed for that, Elegua said to himself. I am so glad tomorrow's Ogun's turn to wake him. The world would not stop if Olofine himself just slept in for a day. Behind his doors, Olofine heard every word Elegua said. He was old, but his ears were sharp, and he heard every sound on earth. When he wanted, he shook his head sadly. Oh, but it would. It would hurt the world if I slept too long. Quickly he banished the thought and set about making the sun rise. He was surprised when he heard the rooster crow in the distance. While Elegua was waking Olofine, the rooster was crowing, each stanza of his song growing in strength and volume. A small bird turned to another and said, He is a fraud. The sun does not rise. It does, the other bird said. Some days are harder than others, for the sun is a deep sleeper. That is why the rooster's voice is so important to the world. Just watch. Hundreds of birds sighed as one of the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, and their voices joined that of the roosters joyously with the dawning of a new day. In a world so harsh and dangerous, small miracles such as these were reasons to wake up each day. When light suffused the world, they took flight, leaving the rooster alone on the forest floor. He ruffled his feathers proudly and picked at the earth with his beak. Of all the birds in the world, he thought, only I can call the sun. I am an amazing creature indeed. The next morning it was the same. All the birds gathered in the forest, gathered around the rooster. Softly at first he began to crow. Softly at first he began to call the sun with his songs. Elegua was sleeping in his bed when he heard the rooster crow. Wearily he sat up and looked at Ogun. Ogun! Ogun! What? It is your turn to wake up Olofine. Ogun sat up. Elegua lay back down and closed his eyes, pulling a pillow over his head and blocked out the rooster's call. When Ogun saw that Elegua was sleeping, he said, I'm going back to sleep too, just a little bit longer. And he drifted off to his dreams. What is wrong? Cried the birds when the sun did not rise. The rooster's voice was worn. It cracked and crumbled under the stress of strenuous singing. I don't know, said the rooster, fearful. The darkness was deepening. The sun did not rise. Maybe the sun sleeps too deeply this morning. We must move closer to its home, closer to the east. All the birds took flight, and the rooster ran as fast as he could toward the east, screeching as loudly as he could. Thousands of wings beat at the air, and there was fear in the forest when the animals heard hundreds of birds fleeing to the east. The rooster was tired and breathless, but his voice was strong and shrill, breaking into something horrible as he ran towards the sun's home. Olofine awoke to the sounds of their panicked, massive migration, and even though he knew it was late, he rushed outside to see what was happening. He marveled at the sight. A dark, living cloud of birds flapping through the darkest skies, and the rooster running and screeching beneath them. Stop! He called out, and the birds landed. What is happening? The rooster failed to call up the sun this morning, and the world lives in darkness, they cried. Olafine smiled and looked at the rooster. Sing for me, he said. Olafine stretched out his arm to the eastern sky, while the rooster crowed, and slowly the sun rose from its resting place. We have to speak, you and I, he told the rooster. The birds were amazed when God himself carried the bird into the palace. Well, it was well afternoon when Elegua pulled himself out of bed, and his heart fell when he saw Ogun still sleeping. Ogun! Ogun! Did you wake Olafine? No, it is your turn. Wiping sleep from his eyes, Ogun said. No, it's yours, Elegua said. Elegua screamed, running out of their room. Ogun followed behind him, and they burst through Olafine's doors. He was already awake, and the rooster sitting at his feet. For the first time in centuries, Olafine was frowning. Now, he said to the bird, and the rooster let out a cry that shook the palace walls. This is the creature that woke me this morning. Sunrise was late, and all the birds of the forest were in a panic. The world does stop if I sleep in, Elegua. Both Orisha's mouths dropped open, and Elegua felt shame. From now on, it is the rooster who will serve me. It is the rooster who will wake me. For this morning I overslept, and the world woke to darkness and fear. Of all the animals in the forest, his voice was the loudest, and he alone awoke me this morning. He alone will wake me, and I will awaken the world. And I, thought the rooster, will always be the most important bird in the forest. As punishment for their failure, Elegua and Ogun were banished from Olafine's home. They left sadly, but in their hearts they were plotting their revenge on the rooster. Olafine sat in his chambers with the rooster and taught him one of life's great mysteries. It was never you that woke the sun, Olafine told him. It was your voice that woke Elegua and Ogun, and one of them came to awaken me. After I was awake, I called up the sun over the horizon. The rooster thought for a moment. But my voice was the first one heard. It was my voice that started the process, he said. In his little head, he was still convinced that he alone had the power to call up the sun. Olafine agreed. Yes, by waking up Elegua and Ogun, you started the process. From now on, you will live inside the palace and wake me yourself. The rooster's pride intact, and he wasted no time going out into the world to announce his newfound importance to all creation. Elegua and Ogun were having none of the rooster's boasts. Together they went through the world and shared the truth. It was Olafine who called the sun over the horizon. The rooster, being arrogant, corrected the two orisha everywhere he went. It is true that Olafine calls the sun, he said, but the sun would not rise if I did not wake Olafine every morning. I live in God's palace, and it is my duty to call him from his slumber every day. He does not live in the palace, the two orisha announced. It is a lie. But they were angry at the rooster, and they wanted to torment him. Prove it, cried the birds. So every night, while Olafine slept, the rooster crept quietly through his walls, opening every door there was. Bit by bit, he learned Olafine's most intimate secrets, and to prove to the animals of the forest that he lived inside the palace walls, he divulged those secrets to them. Elegua and Ogun smiled. It was treason. And quickly they took the word of this treason back to Olafine himself. This cannot be, cried Olafine when Elegua and Ogun told him the news. He is a trusted servant and would not betray me. The two of you are jealous. No, father, said Ogun. Yes, father, said Elegua, not wanting to lie. We are jealous, but we tell you the truth. What we tell you is true. Your ears hear every word said on earth. Use them now to listen to how the rooster speaks of you. Olofin cried and frowned, but in his heart he was afraid that the orisha were being truthful. He held his right hand up to silence them and closed his eyes, and with his ears he sought out the rooster's voice on earth. It is true, he heard the rooster telling the animals. I myself have seen the secrets that Olofin keeps hidden in the most guarded places of the palace. And Olofin listened while the rooster told the animals just what those secrets were. Bring him to me now, said Olofin with the hurt of betrayal in his voice. It was early evening when Elegua and Ogun returned with the rooster. Elegua held him tightly, and Ogun eyed him hungrily. Olofin's back was turned to all three when he spoke. I am very sad, Rooster, he said. I trusted you. I brought you into the palace and made you my servant. Your only job was to wake me up every morning. You had a simple, pampered life. Elegua let the rooster go. He ruffled and straightened his feathers. And I serve you loyally and willingly, said the rooster. I wake you up every morning so you can call the sun up over the horizon. Without me, the world would live in darkness. No, Olofin turned to face the rooster. Without me, the world will live in darkness. Anyone can wake me. Elegua and Ogun did it for centuries. But only I can call up the sun. No one else, not even you, has such power. The rooster's heart sank. Then I will learn my place from this and serve you loyally all my days. No, you won't, said Olofin, for you have abused my trust. While I slept, you went through my most private rooms and learned my secrets. That in of itself is treasonous enough. But then you took those secrets out into the world, sharing them with all the animals of the forest. Thankfully, Elegua and Ogun discovered your treason before you can do too much damage. And what is the punishment for this treason, father? Said Elegua. It is death. Olofin crossed his arms across his chest. The rooster tried to escape, but Ogun caught him before he could make it to the door. With a quick flick of his wrist, he twisted off the rooster's head and took the first taste of blood. And together he and Elegua feasted on the rest. Thus was the rooster first sacrificed, and since that day it has always been Ogun who takes the first taste of blood, and Elegua who feasts next. To pay for their ancestors' treasonous ways, he and all his kind soon become the favored sacrifice of all the orisha in heaven and on earth, as Ogun and Elegua share the feast of them all. So that brings me to the conclusion of this patiki. So as you walk away from this story, I'd like you to think about the roosters in your life, Olofin in your life, Elegua, Ogun in your life. What role in your world do you play? Are you like the rooster? With that, I am complete. Take care. I will talk with you later.